Okay, everybody, we are here for episode number 3. We're starting to stock up of the Legendary Service podcast for Fix It Group. I'm Hannah Davis, one of the hosts with our marketing department, alongside our other legendary host, Brian Remington, with the On Time Experts. Brian, how are you? How does it feel to say episode number 3?
Episode 3. Wow, we're starting to pile them up here.
Okay, what are we talking about today? What's the takeaway? If somebody listens to this, what are they going to walk away with?
So a couple things, really. I'm excited to have our guest on, one of my favorite guys in this entire organization. But really, as we're thinking of ideas and who we want on, he was one of the first people I had in mind. Be able to hear his story. He's one of the OGs back from 2017. Kind of hear how he got his start with us and kind of his climb up the chain, so to speak. And then really a couple of things I think that he is just best at in terms of what really helped him early on and what guys can really learn a lot from. And that's game planning and before the call, strategizing during the call with the manager. And then really one thing that I think separates him from a lot of guys in terms of his ability to connect with clients is we're going to talk about transferring emotion. So I think that's something that he is a master of that I think people can get some good nuggets from. So I'm excited.
I love that. It's essentially, we're going to talk about having that plan, checking in on that plan, making sure that you're being intentional.
Yeah.
And then also the idea of connection, like at the end of the day. And when I look at the reviews that come in for so many of our markets, the technicians, the individuals that make the connection with the customer, we can do all the marketing in the world. That's the biggest impact.
One thing with Chris is, and I've done ride-alongs with Chris, but anybody who's ridden with him, as soon as that client opens the door, they know it's about to be a party up in that house. And Chris just brings the energy, the fun, gets people laughing, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Okay, well, with that said, now I just can't wait to speak with this individual. Brian, why don't you intro Chris and let's bring him into the conversation.
So Chris Palanco from Emergency Air, better known as Chris P or Crispy or Chrissy P. Chrissy P.
Alter ego.
Coming to us from Emergency Air, but like I said, he's one of the OGs. Fix It 24/7, 2017. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Hey,
I'm excited for the party to start. That's what Brian said.
It's gonna be a party. Let's do it. Let's have some fun.
No Don Julio at my desk right now, Chris. Sorry.
No 1942 today.
But anyway, Chris, if you wouldn't mind just briefly think back to 2017, back in that little office we had in Thornton. We had 8 employees. We were interviewing like crazy, trying to get anybody to come join this company that wasn't much of anything. Take us back to that time period.
So around that time in 2017, I was going through some really difficult times, and I was doing Uber at the time. I was basically living day to day, going through some depression, and something came into me, and I got out of depression, and I decided to apply. I went on Indeed, and I saw an ad for Fix It 24/7 and a bunch of other companies. But I went ahead and applied, and the sales manager of that time, he reached out to me to come in for an interview, and then that's when I met Brian Remington. So we're in the interview. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so really, just so everyone knows, at that time, we didn't have any installers. And so I was kind of focused in. I really needed an installer because, as we all know, you sell equipment, you don't get that revenue until you install it. So I was really focused on trying to find an installer.
Yeah. We know. So we're in the interview room, and Brian Remington is thinking I was going to be a great installer for him, but he was unsure, and he was going back and forth thinking what he should do. And then George Donaldson walked by the door, and he said, "Hold up, the owner just walked by. Let me see what he thinks." Then he brings George in, and George talks to me probably for about 45 minutes. I could tell he was hooked and he really was interested in hiring me. But if you ask him today, he'll tell you he was desperate. you know. So right there, he hired me right there on the spot, and as a warranty tech slash installer slash pretty much do anything. And I was working on apartment complexes at first.
Yeah,
So that's how I started.
Back then, when we had the company, the company we bought, they only did apartment contracts. So obviously that's not our recipe. We had to build up the residential side, but we had to kind of take what we had and we started to keep the doors open. So Chris got his start doing apartment maintenances and little residential as it came in. And really one thing that Chris took to early was, really embracing the legendary service, the legendary maintenance. He didn't know any other way, but and really embrace selling indoor air quality early on. And because, obviously he wasn't getting the older system ops or any of that stuff, but was just came in super hungry, just like a sponge, learning everything he could, and really was one of the first people to really embrace taking the system apart and cleaning it. You remember that, Chris?
Yeah, taking the cages off, spraying the units down with some biodegradable chemical, washing it down, and showing the difference between us and every other company around, because we're one of the few that actually did that.
Go ahead, Hannah.
I was going to ask, Chris, you mentioned when you were applying, like you had been like in a bad spot in life. And I think, look, if you're human, you have been in a bad spot in life, right? And you joined this company. You've been here for 7 years now? No.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah, a little over 7 now.
We're going to talk about some of the principles that you embody, but big picture, can you tell me how your life has changed because you've leaned into the 12 keys, because you give it your all every day, because you connect with the client? What does your life look like now versus when you were driving Uber and living day to day?
Well, I took the job very serious early on. I can tell you the first meeting, what they were talking about in the first meeting and how I embraced it from that moment. And I saw it was a different place. And I took it really, really, really serious. I was game planning with Brian Remington on every call. And what that led to was within a year and a half, I was able to purchase my first home in Arizona. And Colorado. Too many places. And coming from where I come from, I don't have family members that own homes or anything like that. So it was a huge accomplishment for me and my family. So I was able to purchase a home, purchase cars, move all the way from Colorado to Arizona, which is a place I truly want to be. My family and I want to be somewhere that's hot all year round and we can have a pool in the backyard. It's kind of an overall picture there, and I'm doing great financially. Many of opportunities. I'm not missing any meals. I'm definitely not living day to day like I was with Uber. As a matter of fact, you want to laugh. You said you wanted a little party. I gained about 15 pounds and I can feel my belly while I'm walking. I never felt my belly before. So if that tells you anything, I'm doing great. I'm eating good.
Eating tacos every day for lunch. Chips and salsa by the pool.
That's amazing.
Salsa by the pool. Yeah, so that's what I got for that right now.
So Chris has made President's Club how many years in a row? You've been here 6 years in a row? President's Club?
6 years, and I already hit President's Club for this year. I punched my ticket in a couple of weeks ago.
It's amazing.
So Chris really, kind of worked his way up, as a technician, running warranty calls and then, running as we got more residential clients, running the maintenance calls, learned how to, generate revenue and sell indoor air quality, and then worked his way into getting what we call opportunity calls, which are the systems that are over 10 years old. And, one thing, I always talk to the guys about training is, we train 2 or 3 times a week and we have our process, the 12 keys, and we kind of break certain things down, but there's no way to replicate all the scenarios that our guys see day in and day out in the classroom. And so game planning is really, really, really important because you partner in somebody who knows the process and who's a master of the process, but say, hey, this is the scenario I'm going to. What are some things I should focus on, or how should I approach this call? And really, you can apply the theory or the textbook training and really apply it to the actual scenarios that we're walking into. And Chris quickly, like he said, within a year and a half, literally got to where he could teach the class, because not only did he take every meeting seriously and participated, but these game plan calls that we're talking about today is really brought the training to life. And I always tell guys, first few years, I mean, Chris would call me, no joke, 2-3 times a call. If he's running 3-4 calls a day, I mean, he would blow my phone up more than anybody. And I think a lot of guys are worried about, I don't want to bother my manager, or I'll figure it out. And Chris, what was your thought process when we say, hey, call a game plan, like you did it? Hey, call and strategize. You would call multiple times during that call. Like, what is it about yourself that wasn't shy or wasn't bashful of doing that? What was that drove you to do that? Why most guys aren't?
Well, I was highly motivated. I was very hungry for success. Didn't want to be in the same position I was in at the time, or my family, and things like that. So I cared more about my being successful than bothering you. And not only that, you ask us to call you. You actually like it. One of the reasons why I love working with you is because you truly make all of us feel like you like to help us, and you
100%.
truly want to do that. So calling you is not really bothering you if that's how you truly feel. So I didn't care. I was just like, he's telling me to call. He didn't tell me it bothers him, and he helps me every time. I'm going to continue to do it. And how am I going to get better if I don't have a coach on every call helping me, just trying to figure it out on my own?
Hey, Brian, I want to ask you, as a leader, as a GM, what does it say to you when you have a team member like a Chris who's not afraid to call, who there's actually humility in picking up the phone to call to say, hey, 2 minds are better than one? What does that say to you as a leader about this team member?
I love it. I tell you what, there's some guys that, listen, I think I can speak for all the managers in the company. We're all busy. We all got a lot going on. And so, but I would much rather be on a phone call with the guy helping them win than anything else I got going on. And so guys that take that seriously and call and aren't shy, and really, like, I think one thing I hope everybody heard was he cared more about being successful than he did bothering me. And I want as many of those guys as possible, because the more successful they are, the more successful I'm going to be. Right. And so, and I love seeing those wins. And you heard a little bit about Chris's story. There's so much with that, but like, that's what drives me as a leader to look in the room or across our company and see how many people's quality of life has drastically improved. And for me to play some part of that, that's really what drives me. So those opportunities that I can get, even if it's a simple phone call, just to check in, or even mindset, or strategize, or whatever it is, like if I can play some small role in helping someone, like that means everything to me.
I love that.
And Chris, even right before this, he was like, hey, I need some help. What should I do in this scenario? And I love that, because if that leads to Chris getting a win, we call it the triple win. If the client wins, technician wins, company wins, then shoot, that's what we're all here for. And so, but Chris would call me before every single call and say, hey, here's where I'm going. Here's the situation. It's, it's a maintenance. It's this, you're all, we tell our guys in key number 2, get as much info as you can about the client. And then we can develop a game plan. And so Chris was a master at that, and would would partner me in on almost every single call, and really that would help reinforce the training. So if I knew Chris sometimes would forget to give a thank you, I'd say, hey, don't forget to do your thank you on this call, or hey, don't forget to get the peace of mind commitment on this call, if that's what we are focusing on and train, just to help keep it top of mind as well. Chris, do you have anything you want to add with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot. We all have personal things going on in our lives, and we all believe that we can put it away, knock on the door, and the customer's not going to feel it. That's not true. They're going to feel it. It gets very repetitive when you're calling your manager or lead, game planning every call. They kind of sound, but you need that. You need them to remind you to not forget to thank you, even if you say it on every call, because I might forget. So it's very important. And like warranty calls, like you said, when I first started, I was running warranty calls. When guys first start, that's what they're running, is maintenance and warranty calls. And a lot of people believe they cannot be successful on those calls. So strategizing right before going to a customer that just purchased a unit a week ago, 3 days ago, 6 months ago is extremely important. There's so many opportunities on every single call. No matter what's going on, there's always a win. So that's what I have to add to that.
That mindset you said is huge, because if you go in believing you can't have success on that call, then you're going to prove yourself right?
Yep.
But if you even if you're self-aware and say, hey, I don't feel good about where I'm going, or I'm not excited about where I'm going, let me pick up the phone and call somebody and help me get my mind right. And so You call a manager, you call myself. Hey, we're going to focus on what's the opportunity on the call, and what is the available win on the call, and let's control what we can control. And sometimes as a technician, you can be in your van all day, or kind of be a lone ranger, and your mind can start going some way. And sometimes you need that external kind of unbiased opinion to help keep you grounded and focused on the things you can control, focused on the opportunities, focused on the wins. It's like Chris said, there's wins on every call, even if it's just wowing the socks off a client and heck, getting a review, or just, hey, earning the opportunity to be able to come back in the fall. And
even making a customer laugh and smile and changing their day, because they got things going on too.
100%. And the other thing I want to talk about, Chris, is, we talk about multiple phone calls. You were, I would say, probably better than anyone I've ever worked with. After we would game plan, I'd always say, hey, call me 30 to 45 minutes into the call. Well, why would I do that?
100%. Oh, we got to strategize throughout the call. I'm getting many objections and going through, and there's many hurdles in the way that I need help overcoming. Like, I got a really good one. Some odd years ago, working with you, was late night. Husband was in the bedroom. You asked me to run a late 8 o'clock maintenance call. Wife is cooking dinner.
You were real happy about that, right?
I forget. I'm great with memory. You know that. And I remember it was you and Marcia. You guys called me and say, hey, this guy can't run it. Can you please run it? And I was like, I'll handle it. I'll never forget this call. And I called you 20 minutes in. I said, Brian, I'm here. This system is extremely dirty, but I can't get the client to engage. And the husband is in the room somewhere. I haven't even seen the husband. And she's cooking dinner. What do I do? And you say, well, grab that blower, bring it to the kitchen table, and show her how dirty it is. I did exactly that, and that led to me locking in an electronic air cleaner, late night special. So yeah, that's really important to call throughout the call.
See, most guys, they wouldn't make that phone call, right? And what would they do?
They would say, well, client, I couldn't get the client to engage. She was busy. You guys gave me a late night maintenance. I wasn't set up for success. So I did what I did, man. I tried to get the customer involved. I couldn't. Things like that.
Chris, I want to ask you about this. So especially during the middle of the call, when you pick up the phone and you're saying, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, or Z, you have to admit that you're hitting a roadblock. I think so often in life, people don't want to admit that they're struggling or they have a challenge. We want to just present as perfect as opposed to being honest. and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this. What should I do?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel hesitant about admitting that you're struggling? And what would your message be to guys that are like, oh, I don't want to call my boss and tell him like I'm struggling with this?
Well, absolutely. We're getting an objection. We get stuck. That's the purpose of the phone call.
Yeah.
And like I've been doing this 7 years now with this company. As Brian said, I just called them right now, and I'm in the middle of a call right now outside. And I have a manager here, ops manager. His name is Kenny Morgan, and he has less experience than me in the industry, and I call him in the middle of every call still. So I still do it to this day. And my message to the people that are afraid to call because they don't want to admit that they're stuck on a call, I mean, think about your why and what's so important to you. If you're not willing to make the phone call, then your why is not as important as you think it is. Your why has to be way more important than you admitting that you're stuck on a call and you need help. Because, for example, if your why is to provide for your family and you're getting stuck on calls and you're not succeeding, how are you going to provide for your family? So that's my message to those guys. That's a pretty big why. So your why is probably not strong enough if you're not making
I always say your why has to be bigger than your why not, right? And we all have big whys, but here's the thing, Chris, and you know this, and I think it's important for everybody to understand. We all have a big why, whatever it is, family, kids, whatever. It's not that we don't have a big why. It's that we don't keep our why top of mind.
There you go.
And I tell you what, you talk about wife and kids. There is nothing I would not do for my wife and kids. So surely I can get a little uncomfortable and say I don't have it all figured out and get some help, right? Yeah. But if we're not keeping our why top of mind, the why not now becomes bigger, and which is usually your ego or your pride, right? Chris, one other thing I want to just touch on before we let you go close this deal is transfer of emotion. If anybody that's ever ridden with Chris, if you ever talk to Chris and you say, hey, what's the key to your success? He will tell you transfer of emotion. Tell us what that's all about.
So, we do this every day. So to us, it's normal. But the homeowner has no idea that they even have a unit inside of their attic. They have no idea what's going on with the unit. And if we go up to them and we present a repair or show them some concerns we may have, and we just go up to them and say, hey, Mrs. Smith, your motor's leaking oil. Client's going to say, okay, motor's leaking oil. Now, if you go up to your client and you say, you need body language, facial expressions, you need to do all that to transfer the emotion. And you go up to them, you go, unfortunately, Mrs. Smith, your motor's leaking oil. Just those two right there are completely different. Completely, you're in a basement, let's say in Colorado, and you walk your client down and you want to show them this coil that's full of rust. You see it every day. It's normal to you. So if you say, oh, Mrs. Smith, this coil is rusted out, it's not good. Client's going to say, okay. But if you go, oh my goodness, Mrs. Smith, this coil is falling apart. It's full of rust. I mean, look at all these rust chips ready to clog up your drain and keep going down that line. It's a completely different message.
I think it's really, really important. I want everybody to really pick up on this. It's not being fake. It's not being phony or being an actor, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing is it's almost like you have to put your rookie cap on or your beginner hat. And what I mean by that is think back to when you first started, and that was the first time you saw a motor leaking oil, or the first time you saw a coil rusted out. It was new to you. You were enthusiastic about showing your client that. And a lot of guys, they have success early on because of their enthusiasm. But like Chris said, over time, the more calls you get under your belt, and as the years go by, things can get mundane. You see blowers leaking oil. You see dirty systems. You see rusted coils. You see it every single day. And it becomes normal. But here's the thing. It's not normal. Should a coil be rusted out? No. Should a motor be leaking oil? No. Should a system be dirty? No. This is the first time the client has ever experienced it. So you have to match that. and you have to be surprised because they're surprised. You have to be disappointed because they're disappointed. And that's what we're talking about with transfer of emotion.
Yeah, making the client feel. I mean, just think about going to a doctor, and depending on how they react, that's what's gonna create the trust on letting this doctor operate me. How is he reacting to the news?
Yeah, when they give you a diagnosis, if it's serious, but they're not acting serious, you're not going to take it seriously, right?
100%, 100%.
I think that's really, really important. And really, can you just touch real quickly? I know I kind of said we're going to have a party. You're going to have a party in the house. The enthusiasm that you bring for what you do on these calls. Talk to us a little bit about that enthusiasm.
Well, you taught me that the most contagious thing in this world is yawning, and the second most contagious thing in this world is enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
So, it's contagious. So the second I walk through the door, I have a big smile on my face. Say, how you doing? They ask me how I'm doing. I tell them I'm doing great. And then as I'm putting my floor protectors on, I make a joke immediately. I'll make a joke, for example, oh, I need to work on my yoga. I need to work on my balance. Putting them on. We're falling as we're putting them on. And I don't go straight into business. I go straight to just talking about life. So how's your, depending on the scenario, I can give you different ones. But I just go straight into talking about life for the first couple of minutes. I don't go straight into, hey, so where's your thermostat? Where's the unit? I go straight into just being me. And like I said, I laugh, I joke with my clients. People going through things every day that we have no idea what they're going through. We don't want to walk in there being regular. We want to be in there with high energy.
100%. I think that's really, really important. If you got to love what you do, you got to love people, and then you have to, treat that client like they're the most important person in the world to you when you're there, right? And I think you're better than just about anybody I've ever seen at doing that. Just people have fun when you're in the house. You're enthusiastic. You love what you do. And
I love people too. I love people.
It's an experience, right? You create an experience for them that they've never had in their home. And, and I think that's if anybody can learn anything from you, it's that.
And one last perspective on that. When you're walking into these people's houses, our customers' homes, we're a stranger. They don't know who we are. Think about you right now, allowing a painter, a carpenter, a plumber walk into your house. It's weird. That's your house. That's your safety net. And you got just some random Joe walking through. You got to make them feel really, really comfortable. So that's what I do with my enthusiasm, is try to just put the walls down. I'm human just like you, and I'm regular.
Love that. You're human just like them. Once you humanize yourself, people can connect, right? And a lot of guys will go into calls and be like, man, I just couldn't get the client engaged. It just, it didn't seem like they really cared. And, this better than anybody, but the client isn't going to engage, and isn't going to care, or isn't going to want to be involved unless you give them a reason to. And you've got to be different. You've got to, wow them with your enthusiasm, with how much you care, and the experience that you create makes people want to lean in and be involved. And I think that's so important.
Yep, I agree.
So, Hannah, do you have anything else for Chris?
I think I was wondering, Chris, especially right now, it's so hot in Phoenix. You're working so hard. What do you do when you are tired? How do you drum up that ability to connect and have that empathy? Like I'm thinking right now, like I'm at the end of a long week, and it can be difficult on those days to dig into that reserve and to bring it. What do you do on those days that you're tired? So you're bringing that party every single time. You're bringing that empathy every single time. You're picking up the phone to call the manager every single time. What do you do on the tired days or the tough days?
So, hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Am I there? Am I back?
Yeah, you're there.
Am I back? Phone call came in. Sorry, I tried to forward it. All right. I did hear everything you said. So I'm highly motivated. Highly motivated. I want so many things in life. I have a single income home. I have a family that depends on me, relies on me to not get lazy and give it my all 100% of the time. I put all those things in the front of my head, and if I forget, I make a phone call. I have a 15-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. My little 5-year-old, I FaceTime her. She has a tablet, and I just talk to her for a couple of minutes. We tell each other how much we love each other. I tell her how I'm gonna buy her toys and all this fun stuff, and that just reminds me that I got to do what I got to do, and that's how I get out of it and snap out of it. Me personally.
Yeah. Brian, to the point that you brought up earlier, it sounds, Chris, you've found a way to intentionally bring your why to that top of mind, to remind yourself. And you're so right. That is the thing that changes everything. Really, I don't have any more questions. What I want to say is thank you. Brian told me to be excited for this interview. He was not lying. Even over the phone, like your energy and your sincerity is so clear to read. And to me, that's your superpower. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story, because somebody's going to listen to this. They're going to lean into their own lives. If even just one person, they're going to lean into their own lives a little bit more.
Yes.
And they may be the first person in their family to purchase a home. They may be taking care of everybody. That's the gift that you're giving right now.
I love it. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. I've never done this before. Brian knows I was super nervous, stomach rumbling, but I was super grateful. I love to help. Brian knows that. So whatever I can do to help, I'm always down.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Chris, for doing this. My guy. Always so proud of what you're doing in Phoenix.
Thank you so much.
And really just what you brought to that team is amazing as well. And just proud to know you, proud to work with you, and keep doing your thing, man.
And thank you so much. God bless. And let me know when this goes out so I can send it to my friends and family.
Okay.
We will. Thank you, Chris.
All right,
guys. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.